Alrighty everyone, welcome back. It is now May 28th of 2024, and given that every single division over at the Walt Disney Company has been going through endless challenges, not just limited to Bob Iger's lack of leadership skills and his deliberate agenda, but also it's all has to do with the fact that we are dealing with the top three shareholders, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street, that are funding all this nonsense related to DEI and ESG getting spilled into multiple brands, whether it be Star Wars, Marvel, or even just the Disney live-action remakes from the animated classics. It's an ongoing vicious cycle that shows no sign of really slowing down at any time soon, basically, for Disney. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So one thing about Bob Iger is that we know that he is banking on Deadpool and Wolverine to be the #1 movie of 2024 by Disney, alright? They're really hoping that this is going to be their movie for this year, and that they can actually point the finger at it in 2025 and say, hey, we made a profit last year, and so that means, of course, that we can keep doing stuff like that. Well, that's basically their overall lie. Alright, they know that the Deadpool and Wolverine movie is not necessarily going to save the MCU per se. We know that there's a lot of expensive failures on the horizon for 2025. Based on what's been going on with Captain America 4, Blade, Fantastic Four, and Thunderbolts, and that's just the beginning. Now, focusing here on what Bob Iger has been doing behind closed doors with Ryan Reynolds, and how this really has been stirring up a lot of drama related to the ongoing reshoots for Deadpool and Wolverine, which, by the way, basically just came to a close and has entered into post-production, and there's a lot of things going along with that. Now, with all divisions at the Walt Disney Company going through many of those problems due to Bob Iger and the board and their many decisions that have sided with their DEI agenda, one major development now has much to do with Ryan Reynolds and the Deadpool and Wolverine production. Now, one shocking turn of events now is that Reynolds is already beginning to fall into creative differences with the Disney heads after those like Bob Iger and Kevin Feige have decided to drastically cut down a special cameo from actor Henry Cavill, who is reportedly set to portray a variant of Wolverine from another universe. Now, both Iger and Feige recently made their final call to cut Cavill's scene in half. The main reasoning behind Iger and Feige's call to slash down Henry Cavill's scene as an alternate Wolverine that Ryan Reynolds has been furious about is all connected to how Disney felt Cavill's acting wasn't working out in the long run for a large portion of the footage that was shot at last minute during reshoots, and that even now both Iger and Feige are refusing to include the extra footage on the planned director's cut of the film. To make matters even worse, this is already stirring up drama between Reynolds and the Disney heads, as they have been very stubborn with their stance on reducing Cavill's screen time in the film. One part of Cavill's cameo that was cut down drastically involves how both Cavill and Jackman were going to meet face to face in the film as two Wolverines from two different universes, sharing an exchange of curse words toward each other to add comedic relief. The jokes by Ryan as Deadpool, caught in the middle of the two Wolverines, would make various jokes about how they both have anger issues to work at. This scene, of course, was drastically cut down and altered, with some curse words even erased out of the film that Cavill did not agree with, by both Bob and Kevin. However, not because they wanted to reduce the amount of profanity, but Iger and Feige believed that both Cavill and Jackman on screen together at the same exact time for longer than they wanted would steer fans away. Already, Reynolds is demanding Disney to make a last-minute change after erasing much of Cavill's scenes from the film. In fact, Cavill's scenes weren't even test screened yet by screeners in a new cut as post-production is still underway. However, Reynolds is already providing Disney an ultimatum that he is willing to walk away from the true Deadpool 3 movie that is in the works, since Deadpool and Wolverine is not considered the third film, as confirmed by both Shawn, Levy, and Ryan. One major scene featuring Cavill that was deleted by Disney flat out that Reynolds was furious over also involved Cavill, of course, beheading multiple Russian soldiers in the middle of some unknown battle in his universe. Cavill surprisingly was seen wearing the classic yellow Wolverine suit in the scene that is said to be even more accurate than Jackman's yellow suit in its own way to the X-Men animated series. This was the one scene in which Cavill sported the yellow suit for Wolverine that was written by, of course, Ryan Reynolds, and Ryan reportedly feels betrayed by Disney for doubling down to erase the scene entirely to shave down the running time of Deadpool and Wolverine, yet they kept other scenes that Ryan felt were underperformed by other actors playing different cameos. Now guys, let me just say one thing about that. Now here's the problem about this whole situation is that basically they wanted to make this movie more around the lines of 2.5 hours long in length, somewhere around that range, instead of 3 hours long in length. Now, look, I know that 3-hour movies are slowly becoming the norm. In fact, you're seeing more and more of them pop up here and there that are widely accepted. I'm not saying every single movie is like that, but it is becoming more frequent where you see these 3-hour movies releasing in the theaters, going on to streaming, or wherever you go, right? This could have easily been a 3-hour film and could have been a major hit. I mean, if you look at the Avengers movies, they're pretty much in that same range. The later ones, of course. You have seen, of course, other movies out there in different forms of franchises, whether you go to, for example, Lord of the Rings. I mean, that's a prime example of those really long movies that people can just sit through and watch and enjoy. Deadpool and Wolverine, I think, would have been the perfect example of a Marvel movie that could do 3 hours, maybe 3 hours and change, with the credits, added on top of that. But moving onwards, alright, this is where things get even more intense, is that Cavill also has been getting involved in these arguments behind the scenes with Disney about how his scenes are getting cut down and reduced overall for the final cut of the film, and how those extra scenes are not going into the director's cut by Shawn Levy. And look, that is a very valid argument by Cavill, by Ryan. I love how Ryan's giving this ultimatum to Disney behind the scenes about exiting from Deadpool 3. Now, that is something that I think needs to be widely known, is that Deadpool and Wolverine is not considered the third film. It is not considered the conclusion of a so-called trilogy per se. Alright, Shawn Levy confirmed that this is not the third movie. In fact, they consider it a movie that just stands on its own, a special film, so to speak. Now, they want to make a third film. They've been working on a third film, trying to figure out where they want to go with the future of Deadpool under Disney's wing, and there's been a lot of loopholes here and there. Basically, Disney, pulling some strings and really kind of creating a lot of arguments between those like Ryan, those like Shawn, about the overall direction. Now, yes, Deadpool and Wolverine is going to have that hard R rating, but there have been a lot of requests and demands that were made by Ryan and Shawn to make that happen, to make Disney agree with them that they needed to get it done this way. And they were actually quite surprised that they eventually caved and agreed to their demands. So overall, I would love to hear what you all have to say about this ongoing scenario happening between Cavill, Reynolds, the Disney heads, and even Kevin Feige, who, by the way, I think is a big part of the problem about the current state of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So I would love to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.